and welcome back in, Wyoming Knuckleheads. This is another episode of Go BYO. I'm your host, Aaron, and today I got Zach. It's still spring break.
Yep.
Zach, we've got two special guests in today. We've got Donnie and Ryan King. They're here in the studio, so Donnie and Ryan, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having us.
So, little backstory. We before Zach and I had good equipment and had an audio guy
and a studio.
Yeah, in a studio. We were in the shop and we recorded an episode. That's in the lost files or whatever. And, I screwed up and the audio is gone. So
cyberspace or something.
Yeah. So, but it's thank you guys for coming back, and we're happy to highlight. King's and King's Rope, and then the museum as well, and just share your guys' story. So, first and foremost, I think let's just talk about the shop and ropes and saddles and kind of how that got started in the King family, and we'll kind of go through the history, and then Zach and I will just pipe in.
The shop got started basically. My grandfather was in the Coast Guard and stationed down in Florida when they were done with that. After that, my grandma and him had married and whatnot.
They eloped.
Right. He was on a leave from the Coast Guard. They got married that day, I believe, and then
2 or 3 days before he was sent off to the Pacific.
That's right.
Gotcha.
But once they got back, once he was out of there, mid 40s, they moved back here. Grandpa he just rode horses, broke colts, stuff like that. Did leather work at home for the most part. And then I think he was it mid 50s or something like that. He started working for Ernst and a few of the other local saddleries. Rudy Mudra. Briefly at Bighorn Saddlery, they started that till that burnt down in, I think, 57 or somewhere around there. But yeah, basically he late 50s he started doing the RCA, the Rodeo Cowboys Association, which is now the PRCA.
Gotcha.
Started doing all the trophy saddles for the NFR basically. And he did that for about 4 to 6 years. I can't remember exactly what it was.
We've got pictures at the store of all the years that he did it.
Yep.
Okay.
So in 61, he kind of had the notoriety of a lot of folks, or, people noticed what he was doing and told him he needed to start his own shop. So it's what he did. So
That's awesome.
61. So
on Main Street, he just put a little place in the back of Ritz Sporting Goods and grew from there. And then 71 is where we are in our present location at 184 North Main.
Right.
So Grandma and Grandpa bought that building and
built the
rope shop. I mean, at the time, cowboys basically went to a hardware store and bought their rope and stretched it or did it themselves. And Grandpa just had an idea that he would do a finished product where cowboys could just walk in and buy it off the rack.
Right.
So we put the rope store and leather department down in the basement, which used to be a bowling alley down there in that store on Main Street. And then the main floor was an old bar, and then up above was one of the finest cat houses in the West at the time. It operated up until the 50s. And when Grandma and Grandpa bought it, Grandpa was walking around upstairs in the old cat house, and things were a little looked normal to him because our great-grandfather Arch, when he'd come into town, he would have the ladies watch Grandpa as a little kid while Grandpa Arch did whatever he did. So, but it just seemed a little familiar up there for him.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So it took him about 10 years of doing it kind of as a side thing, and then got the notoriety, and then another kind of 10 years to decide to open up a shop then there. Is that kind of about right? So 20 years there.
Yeah, he grew up, his whole life traveling around, and everywhere he'd go, the first stop he'd make was a saddle shop or something of the sorts, and sit there and watch the guys tool and dink around with it in the bunkhouse late at night, and I don't think he slept very much, you know. So
yeah, he made extra money. A tooler at one of the big saddleries in Arizona took a liking to him as a kid and gave him some scrap leather and some nails, and basically said, you know, here's how you do it. Mm-hmm. And he would make belts and wallets for the cowboys because Grandpa Arch and him, they traveled between Arizona, California, Wyoming, Texas, just driving cattle. And then at 13 years old, Grandpa did have an 8th grade education. And Grandpa Arch gave him a horse and said, you're on your own now. So it's...
you had to learn.
Yeah, it wasn't much choice in that.
Yeah.
Sink or swim situation there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
I mean, Grandpa Arch came, I think I was in junior high maybe, but we had a barbecue at our Uncle Bob's house, and we're driving home, and I said to Mom and Dad, I was like, oh, that's neat. We finally got to meet our great-grandpa, and Dad's like, that's the first time I've ever met him.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because...
I'll never forget my dad saying, don't you boys ever forget this, because... and I haven't forgotten it. You know, I was maybe 4 or 5 at the time, and I remember meeting him, and my dad said, "Don't ever forget it, because this is kind of a historical event happening right here."
They got in an argument because Grandpa Arch asked Grandpa to build him a saddle, and Grandpa basically told him to F off.
Gotcha.
It's kind of the cliff notes of the story that we've heard.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it was pretty interesting. I'll never forget that day meeting him. So
yeah, family stories is always funny to hear.
Oh
though.
Yeah. yeah. And not every family is all butterfly kisses and
right,
whatever sunshine stories. So.
Yeah. And so 71 they opened the shop, and then
61.
Sorry, 61.
Yeah.
But then moved into the current store in 71.
And then in 77, that's across the alley. That's where we opened up the big rope store.
Gotcha.
And put the leather shop there. And then we, down in like the basement, Grandpa he made a roping machine that's basically on metal rails that twists the nylon, because we make about 20% of our own product. And then we got the wax bin and the hot room down there too. So it's... During the wintertime, we stretch our rope. We'll cut them the length down there in the basement, stick them in the hot room, which will keep it like 130 to 140, and put it on come-alongs down there and switch it out every couple days. So basically what you're doing is getting all the kinks and making the rope lie straight. Mm-hmm. So like in the summertime, we can put anywhere between 300 to 400 coils, 600 feet long out in the rope field. It's out east of town. And we'll let them bake in the sun for about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the weather. Cut them the length, coil them, bring them back in, and then put the knots, Hondu, in the burners, tie the burners in. So then it goes up on the rack for sale.
And is that the original way that got it started?
Yep, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, there's that field out where my grandfather's the homestead is. You know, we've been stretching there since the beginning.
Yep.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And let's go back to, cowboys would make their own.
Right.
And then so he had the idea of, let's just have a shop where they can just come and buy it.
Right.
Talk a little bit. Have you guys heard how that went down and how he kind of had to maybe change that, or was it kind of a quick change?
I think it was just a quick deal as far as I know. I think he just started making the things, and then people started using them and liking them. So, and he was also one of the first guys he was the first guy to ever make a left-handed rope.
That's
also.
Right.
So, for the guys that would rope left-handed, most guys don't do that anymore. But there are still quite a few out there. I mean, everywhere we go, I sell left-handed ropes. So, I mean, there's ranchers out there that still got to work their cows, so they're left-handed.
Yep. Okay.
And not everybody can learn how to rope right-handed when you're left-handed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from there it just kind of grew into, here's these products. Now we got these ones. Now this stuff. So it just kind of grew on there. You get different products. or different kind of rope that reacts differently, you know. So I think he was willing to try just about anything and see if it worked, and if it did, we sold it. So
was he pretty action oriented? Like he had the idea of no one makes a left-handed rope, and then he just went and made it, or he was
pretty inventive, you know. He would, if someone told him he couldn't do something, he'd figure out a way to prove him wrong. So he was that type of person that, I think somebody told him he couldn't stitch a saddle horn at like 20 stitches per inch or something like that. So he took a cog wheel out of a watch and made a little stitching deal, or a little prick iron to see where to run the stitches, and proved somebody wrong, you know, just to do it.
Yep.
So, but you know, that's the type of guy he was. He even made a pant stretcher, you know, that I thought was pretty creative. It's kind of like the cowboy hat stretchers, but you know, you're getting a little thick around the middle. He had these deals that would stretch his pants out for him and stuff. And that, man, he was a little before his time, I guess.
He was crusty, though. He's a crusty.
Yeah.
But he'd take the shirt off his back for you.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, you know,
you knew if he liked you or if he didn't like you.
I'd have to call him on Monday and remind him at a football game on Friday night, and grandmother would make sure she dragged him down there. You know, he didn't want to be there, but
yeah,
he would if grandmother said he was going somewhere, he'd jump up out of his chair.
Yeah, thank God for her.
And that's, you know, it's like Eaton's Ranch that's out in Wolf Creek. Here in town. It's a first established guest ranch in the U.S., and Eaton's notoriety, especially for this area, is there's a lot of cowboys that, you know, the East Coast girls that would get in trouble at their country clubs and stuff. Their fathers would send them out here to work, and then they'd fall in love with a cowboy. So it's kind of like with Grandma and Grandpa. Grandmother grew up in Fargo, North Dakota, but they would come to Eaton's for the summer, or for a couple weeks every summer. And Grandpa was a wrangler there. She was a dudette, and they hit it off. And grandmother was down at University of Arizona going to college right before Grandpa got shipped off. So that's like the story that grandmother used to tell me. She's like, and back then we sent telegrams and we eloped. And we sent a telegram to my parents in Fargo, and my mother called and congratulated us. So it was.
I think his pickup line was, "I feel sorry for your horse." You know, that was what he always said. Is, "Feel sorry for your horse."
Oh, gosh. They just don't make them like that anymore.
No.
But like with the town here of Sheridan, there's a lot of money that came into this area because of that from those East Coast people.
Yeah, a lot of people fell in love with the area, you know, and move out here.
Yeah, yeah. Zach and I are in the middle of Sam Morton's book, and that's
which book?
Where the Rivers Run North.
Okay.
Yep. So.
Yeah, Sam, sorry. You know, if you can get through the first 6 chapters about the little love affair with the squad and the little Indian kid. But then it's because it's historical fiction. Once you get past those first few chapters, it really gets interesting.
Yes.
Sam did it. He's done a wonderful job on each of his books.
Yeah.
Even his picture book. So it's I think it's neat that he's been able to put those together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even you call it historical fiction, but he
tells one hell of a story.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you've ever met him, you obviously know he's a hell of a storyteller.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's absolutely right. You had all this kind of money flowing in because they love the area, and then horses and all that stuff too. But that's funny. Well, I'm married now, so I can't. Zach, you could use that. Feel sorry for your horse. So, kind of talk about 71. You know, and we're in the original store. You know, then what kind of really happened there? So, I mean, innovation first. I mean, started making ropes, selling ropes, left-handed ropes, and then when did the saddles? I mean,
well, the saddles and stuff I think they were always part of it, and
we got the local saddle guys here also that. So some of them have worked for us, and some of them are on their own, and then they just bring their saddles in on consignment that we sell in the store.
Awesome.
But yeah, we've had some good saddle makers over the years that have worked for us, and leather workers in general. We've had Jim Jackson, Billy Gardner, Link Weaver,
Link's dad.
Yeah, Link's dad. We've had
Kent Schreibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of these employees that we've had, that we still have, a lot of them are 25, 30, 40-year employees. So,
wow.
And a couple of them that are head of the rope department were right in on the ground floor when they were 14 or whatever, working for us. And
child labor laws, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And been there ever since. So you got two of our guys that are 40-plus years that are, they started within a couple months of each other. So,
wow.
It's pretty crazy it's great to have employees like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Was the consignment always something that he always did with the leather work? Since he kind of, because he
did a little, he'd have piecework here and there, but, at a certain stage when it really got rolling, it was all in-house.
Okay.
For the most part. Now we do a little more of the piecework and stuff just because the golden age of leather work, I think, is it's dwindled down. It's not dead or anything. It's harder to find good quality work anymore, and shops that are doing it at a rate that we're doing it at, I guess. And we're not the busiest by any means, but we're not the slowest either. So
yeah,
it's just something we've always just offered.
Yeah.
So, and tried to offer good stuff.
Yep. Quality stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
And then, Grandpa was a collector all of his year, or hoarder in some terms, if we want to look at it that way.
Interchangeable terms, yeah.
But when I was a senior or junior in high school, we bought the building next to our rope shop, which was an old carpet store. And so that was one of my jobs as a junior in high school, is to clear that out and go to the dump all the time. But we put a museum. Grandpa collected so much stuff, and then people around here, there's a lot of stuff on display that they've collected, but we've got
passed down through families.
Right. We've got. I remember every time Grandpa would go to an auction, he'd come find me, and he'd say, "Go unload my Jeep," and I'd walk out, and there'd be 5 or 6 more saddles, and there'd be boxes of this and boxes of that, and I was just like, "Really, Grandpa?" And he's like, "Don't you question me, just unload it, God damn it." So we've got close to 600 saddles on display in there, plus a lot of other Western memorabilia, guns, Indian artifacts, and of course Grandpa's saddles. We've got a whole slew of those in there, but it's completely full, and we've got a few hundred more in storage of saddles that he just picked up at auctions.
Probably got 300 more sitting up in the top of the building there. So
wow.
Just no place to put them.
Yeah.
And each of them have their own story.
Well, and some were in there, and we just swapped them out for something else that came in that might have been a little better. But most everything that Grandpa kept, there was a reason he kept it. There was, something on some saddle would be a little different, or something he wouldn't see so often, or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but there was a lot of those boxes of stuff that there was only one good thing in, and then the rest of it was crap.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So you get all that stuff.
Yeah. So what year would that have been? That had been
So when I was a senior in high school, Dad and I were putting the museum together because we got it all
89,
finished
90.
inside, and then it opened late 90, early 91.
okay.
Because I was already at Montana State
Gotcha.
going to school.
So we're just over 20 years of the museum then.
30.
Oh, 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do math. Sorry. 30 years. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome.
So yeah, and it's, like Donnie was saying, the community, there's all these people that have brought in stuff that, their families, some of their family was at the Custer battlefield or whatever. So you get a lot of that stuff.
Dave
in there.
Bliss's wagon in there.
Yeah.
Either that and the Champion Funeral Home. All they had to do with the hearse in there is dust it off. That's how well kept it was.
Wow.
Got a sheep wagon in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleigh. Well, and then there's the Alan Ann Stolman workshop up in there, which my grandfather was friends with Alan Ann Stolman, which, if nobody knows, they were kind of put Tandy on the radar for leather workers for doing stuff at home. So he was very, I don't know, he wasn't recognized for what he was at the time. I mean, the guy was like my grandfather, kind of a jack of all trades. He was a silversmith, leather worker, painter, just all around general artist. And yeah, I mean, the stuff that he did, I still reference, a lot of the books and things that he wrote for Tandy. So, to have that workshop up there is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then there's a miniature replica of Eaton's Ranch up there also.
Okay.
Which
Dioramer.
Which is, if you've never been out to Eaton's, it's cool to just look at a little miniature ranch up there in a case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dad. I used to nap up in the hill right up here during the day. So he was famous for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Pointing out all the points in the ranch there.
Yeah.
That, and while the guests were having lunch or whatever, they'd be in the corrals with their bareback riggings practicing for rodeo, and then the guests would come out with their horses saddled, and you could see their necks had been spurred. They'd calm down by the time the guests got back on them. At least that's, in theory, that's what Dad tells us.
Yeah. Yeah. So Donnie, you helped with kind of the museum. You got put to work, clean it out. Ryan, were you kind of helping that same time too?
Well, yeah, I didn't start working there till probably 92, 93.
Okay.
And they were still at the time adding saddles. So
sure.
Every day after school, I would come and I'd wash a saddle down or something like that. And then, the next day I'd add oil to it or something like that. And then it'd go in the museum after that. So wash one day, oil it up, put it back together.
Wax on, wax off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And both Donnie, Barry, and I, all three of us, we all had to, we each got a couple hundred saddles in our that we probably washed over the years. So
Yeah.
There's no, I don't miss that kind of stuff, I guess. But,
That's why you have Nolan, your son.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Pass it down.
Yeah.
Right.
I just had him making some keychains for the store yesterday. So
Nice.
Awesome.
he did a pretty good job too. So
Cool.
got the fourth generation already working.
Yep.
Sort of.
Yeah.
When he wants to, I guess.
It's a balance, right? You gotta, because let's kind of dive into your guys' stories a little, because you guys were the third generation, and obviously they put you guys to work, but then it was kind of go out, learn kind of your own experiences, and then
Right.
That's what Dad told us to do. He said, go out and do what you want. You can always fall back on the store. So Dad was kind of required to go into it. I mean, as the story goes,
They didn't have a choice.
He
said,
Grandma and Grandpa at dinner one night with all four of their boys there, kind of said, hey, we've got this idea of what we're going to do. You can be part of it if you want. So
I think they said, no, you're going to be part of it to make it work. And
the mistake Grandpa, because Dad and Uncle Bill went on the rodeo team down at the University of Wyoming, but the thing, Grandpa's mistake was he wanted Dad to cover stirrups, but he would pay him in advance, so Dad's money was usually spent at the bar buying, drinking beer. So
Sure.
But the stirrups weren't covered when Grandpa asked for them.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there.
Yep. Yeah.
But he told us to do whatever we wanted. Donnie, he went to...
You went to MSU?
I went to MSU for a year, and unfortunately I had a season pass at Bridger and social chairman in my frat. So my GPA went from a 3.9 to a 1.9 in one semester. And then I went to culinary school out in Portland, Oregon, moved to Denver, worked in the in a 5-star restaurant down there, and then got offered a job in Florida in Palm Beach, to where I was a private chef for a family and their estate manager. So it was 8 months in Palm Beach and then 4 months at their ranch over in Cody, Wyoming, which is Valley Ranch, which is actually the second guest ranch ever established after Eaton's. And Grandpa actually wrangled out there in the 30s.
Right.
So it's, and what's cool about Valley Ranch is like where the main house is. It used to be during the winter. It used to be a school for boys from the back east, like not troubled boys, but kind of in trouble. And that, I think they had, a dozen or 2 dozen boys that actually attended school out there.
Wow.
During the winter. And there was a polo team because one of the hay fields used to be the old polo field out there. And then I finished up my MBA at University of Miami and then did yachting for just a little over 20 years because I just moved back to Sheridan middle of May last year.
Okay.
When the governor finally opened up the borders for people coming from a hotbed.
Yeah.
So,
do you miss cooking at all?
I mean, here in town, I do classes at Verdello, just off of Main Street. So actually doing one tonight with, and we got a beer and sausage fest. So it's going to be with Smith Alley Brewery and Ligursky Sausage.
Oh, nice.
So we'll have like 5 courses, and we're pairing the beer with the sausage. So
cool. I
appreciate everybody at Smith Alley donating the beer, and Jimmy for making the sausage fresh this week.
Yeah. So.
And then how about you, Ryan?
Yeah. So I graduated high school. I went to University of South Coffeen here for a year and decided that school wasn't my deal. And my mom and dad were getting a little pissed off with me around here, so they called Donnie up and said, "Can you get him a job down there? Because we're sick of this little shit." So he was friends with a yacht captain at the time, and had asked him to hire me on green, just not knowing anything, and he said absolutely. So he called me up out of the blue one day, and I offered me a job, and it's kind of a little blown away a little bit by what they were going to pay me for not knowing anything. And so I told him, I said, well, give me about a month because I got to train somebody to kind of take over my spot. And so we found a guy and got him kind of worked up. And then I headed down there, and I worked in the yachts for, probably about 6 years or so. And then I worked I got out of that just because I kind of got sour taste in my mouth, I guess, with a few bad owners, things like that. And then I had a friend of mine that I'd met through yachting, and I worked for him for about 2 years. He's got a guide business, and we used to do deep sea fishing and stuff like that. So did that for about 2 years, and then I moved back here about 15 years ago.
Gotcha. So
I've just been stamping leather and cussing in the basement ever since. So
yes, you do.
How would you guys say that was a benefit for you guys to kind of to take a break? Be out.
I mean, both of us have been able to see the world. I mean, like when you work on a yacht, you get to go to places like the cruise ships only go to point A and point B.
Right.
I mean, we got to see whether it was the Bahamas, Caribbean, Mediterranean, even up in New England, you get to go to the places, and you get to meet the locals. And
you're going places that people pay $100,000 a week to, or more to, like our boat chartered out for about $100,000 a week. You worked on one that was for
$750,000 a week plus food, dockage, and fuel on top of that. So basically $1 million a week.
Wow.
And we were based out of Monaco, which was absolutely, I love,
ridiculous.
Monaco. I mean, if you've never been to Monaco, it's the richest city in the world.
Probably, yeah.
Roughly but you walk up above the casinos, and there's like a line drawn through the street because you can see how clean Monaco's kept. And then France, but they have the best Indian restaurants up above the casinos, and you pay like 10 to 20 euro, and they've got the tandoori ovens and everything, and you sit out in the middle of the sidewalk, and it's a neat experience.
Yeah.
And then if you have other time off, the infrastructure in Europe's great to where you can just hop on a train and be in 3 different countries in 3 different days.
Right.
So it's
But yeah, going, having that opportunity to kind of go out, see what the world's about a little bit, meet people, learn some things about people. I think it helps. When we get back here and we could be shipping ropes to Switzerland or Germany or somewhere like that, and you kind of know what they're doing over there. But it's just good for dealing with customers, I think, to have experienced that lifestyle, I guess, to where, like I say, you're meeting people all over the country or all over the world, and people from, I
was going to say different backgrounds. You've got
totally. Yeah, your upper echelons down to just your everyday average Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it was great to have dealt with that, and there's a few times where you're close calls, I guess you could say.
Sure.
Where you kind of you pucker up a little bit and probably shit out a diamond the next day.
Like St. Thomas, the time we were in St. Thomas. When
Jesus.
Yeah. Had a pistol pulled on me. Yeah, that's always fun.
Jeez. Yeah, go into that real quick. Yeah.
No, we don't need to go there. That's for another day.
We went to a shoe show there where the girls just danced with their shoes on.
I gotcha.
And, I think Donnie said the wrong thing to the owner and was.
No, the owner was cool with me because he graduated from University of Miami too.
Yeah, he was pulled aside and.
The bouncer. Yeah. One of the bouncers.
Gotcha.
Needless to say, it was not the best establishment we probably could have been in, and it was down in the Virgin Islands, so it was a little seedy anyways on a couple of those spots. But
sure,
it was life stories,
Yep. Experiences.
Yeah.
Yep. I was gonna ask because like we said, you guys have dealt with, and we'll dive into some of your guys' stories, but the top of the top, people renting out those yachts and then, some seedy places
they're
and
floating money pits.
Yeah.
When I was on that one that was $1 million a week, it was the gentleman that came on at the time was a 5th richest Russian. He's in the fertilizer industry, but his bodyguard, his name was Christian, and he was Romanian and spoke 8 or 9 different languages, and you could tell this guy had killed plenty of people. But the guy's best friend was this ex-KGB guy that was about 5'4" and built like a brick shit house, and you could tell he and Putin, did plenty together.
Wrestled
sound of it.
Wrestled bears together.
I didn't have to sign an NDA with those guys, with that charter, so I can kind of say what I want.
Yeah.
But most of the charters, you sign an NDA, and and you just laugh at things that you see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People with money.
Yeah. Well, and what I was getting to was how you guys run the store now, in dealing with people, as you said, Ryan, like, I wouldn't say everyone's the same, but in service, in providing a product.
Yeah, it was a service industry that we were in,
right.
Working on yachts. So you're just dealing with a different type of service. So still trying to put out the best product you can. Where you're on the yachts, you're trying to show them the best time you can, just because.
And you can't please everybody. I mean, I had a charter one time that their 10 or 11-year-old kid, they only ate McDonald's. I mean, we had a 5-star chef on board, and every port we went to, that kid stayed in his room the whole time playing PlayStation. I mean, we were in, cruising some of the neatest places you could. Didn't want to come out of their room and wanted McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow.
It's just, what are you going to do? I mean, I'm not going to sit there and complain when the charter principal is paying $125,000 a week for the yacht.
Yeah.
So it's
Yep.
Is what it is.
Yeah. That's a good lesson. Yeah, can't please everybody.
No, you really can't.
It's like the Russian when his wife came on board. She asked, so we're going to get hamburgers and ribs and things like that to eat, and we're like, no. You can have, I know what your preferences are, and she's like, oh, well, that's what you Americans eat, because our crew was a crew of 15, and there are 3 Americans on board, and it's like, no, you can get whatever, but like 4 days into it, I think we were in Sardinia. There was a holiday going on, and so everything is closed down. Well, they asked for ribs, and it's just like, where the hell are we going to find ribs on a holiday in Sardinia? So we call our agent, go to every butcher shop you can. I don't care what part of the animal. And I need 100 pounds of ribs, and we got 2 styrofoam containers. About 4 hours later, you had beef, you had pork, you had lamb, you had goat, you had all these different ribs. Put a little dry rub on them, and then we just did a slow roast, and they were happy as pigs in mud.
Zach, do you have any questions for him?
Yeah, well, so tell us a little bit about, we got to talk about the hats. Just, how they came about. I think that's what, you see the hats everywhere, wherever you're going.
Sure.
But tell us about the hats a little bit, how that came to be, and kind of what it is now.
And I was going to say, I think Ryan's got if I remember correctly.
Yeah, between my dad and uncles, I think it was a John Deere hat. They found, it was like a foam trucker hat, which is what we still carry. But between that hat and then Imperial used to make God, they were ugly. It was a pale yellow linen hat, and that was, I think, the first King Rope hat along with the trucker hats. But we would, if you bought a couple ropes, we'd just throw one in with the deal, and people started wearing them, and then we started charging them. A couple, I think it was like $3 or something for a hat back in those days. So
early 70s, 74, I think, when we came out with the first.
Could be 74 to 77 or something.
Dad says the late 60s, but I think it was 70s.
It was in the 70s.
He doesn't remember.
Yeah. But since then, it just kind of grew, and then, there was some, like in the movie Vacation, where he drives off the interstate, the guy, he almost runs over when he's stepping out of the front of the stores wearing a King Rope hat.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a couple movies out there where you catch a glimpse of it. The Longmire series, obviously, they wore a King Rope hat in a few of the episodes there, and Rob and Adam wear them all the time anyways, and post it all over social media. So stuff like that helps. And
Lion of Africa with
Lion
Brian
of Africa,
Dennehy.
yeah, we sent a whole case of hats for him because he kept
2 dozen.
They kept ruining them, and 'cause it was raining in whatever scene or whatever, and crawling around through mud, and so he had to make the hat look right every time. So he had a couple dozen of them, and
then our local artist Ian Munzik.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He
as of lately,
he's that's his thing. So it's we appreciate everything Ian's doing for the brand and for the hometown too.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, it's hard to explain. You can't really explain it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it just grew and grew and grew, and I think we just kept coming up or displaying crazy hat styles, and those the mid '80s with the Hawaiian hats and the the ones with coyotes and stuff, and the fluorescence, Jesus.
And then back in the mid '80s with the corduroy, and then this summer everybody coming through. Are you ever gonna get corduroy back? And I was like, well, we had an '85, and we finally found a vendor that
right here
can put it back out there. Yeah.
So we've got corduroys back in stock. So even though it's like I just shake my head.
Yeah.
It's the amount of caps we sell compared to ropes is a little
crazy.
It's uncanny. It's awesome. But and then we've started dealing with Bighorn Design across the street, and they've got us into some T-shirts and some apparel and stuff we've been needing to do for 25 years and just finally got on the boat to do it. But we couldn't be more happy. They do a lot of our fulfillment on most, probably half the styles of the hats we do.
Sure.
Which is awesome. So having them do that just pumps it out there even more and gets us out there.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question, is just how the store is continuing to kind of evolve or, just keep going with the way that things are going now.
Sure.
Not everybody, like you said, you're probably selling more hats than you are ropes.
Absolutely.
Right.
So how you're just kind of trying to stay relevant, let people find you too.
Right. And, that's, it's funny you say evolvement or whatever. It's, you kind of have to evolve a little bit because in a way, rodeo's dying a little bit. You got PETA out there that's against all this cruelty for animal stuff and
protesting outside in Vegas.
Yeah,
that's the wrong place.
Well, I remember, God, it was probably the first or second year I was back. It was the first year I was back here. We had the high school finals, national high school finals in Springfield, Illinois. Well, that's the headquarters for PETA, and up until the day before the rodeo, we didn't know if we were going to have a rodeo because they were not going to allow it to happen because they were using hot shots and twisting tails. So you couldn't twist the calf's tail or use a hot shot to get him through the chute, and that made them happy. So otherwise, we might have not had a rodeo, and we just, it's an 18, 19-hour drive out there and a couple days to set up. So I was on the edge of my seat there for a day or so.
Yeah.
But things like that, you see where some of the rodeos in California have been shut down for, exactly what I'm talking about. But
yeah.
So that's a big worry in the back of my mind. Like, if a couple of these events get banned, like say calf roping or steer tripping's only allowed in about 4 or 5 states right now anyways. So if calf roping ever, goes away or break away, that's a major part of our rope business. Mm-hmm. So that's stuff you got to think about. So that's why I was trying to create some revenue with the more, like we did the T-shirts and stuff like that. Little things like that can help offset the balance, or, just get us ahead before we're behind.
Right.
So hopefully we'll just keep adding to that, and hopefully all the other stuff doesn't get banned or anything like that. Right. But it's still a worry I got to think about in the years to come. So
yeah,
absolutely.
So, and the pussification of America. There's a lot of guys that aren't going to be coming up doing rodeo. So
right.
It's kind of sad to see in a way, but there's right now, like my kid and several other kids, we're doing a lot of steer riding and stuff like that, bringing them up to, trying to get some cowboys built out of these kids and keep it going and stuff like that. But Joe Smith and Josh Pierce, they both work for us, and Joe used to be a professional bull rider, and Josh too, he was a bareback rider, but it's good that we're kind of passing along, some of that knowledge and actually giving these kids an opportunity like we never had when we were kids. Cause
just put us on the calf or the steer and said, put your chest out and hold on.
You get that one time a year, at the rodeo or whatever, but now we're practicing, once a week or, once every other week, and then having rodeos, throughout the winter and stuff like that. And then this summer will be, 1 or 2 a week. So
yeah,
it's good, keep them busy.
Yeah.
And keep them in it. So
I was just going to say, I'm glad we're kind of making this turn because, Granddad, he was a wrangler. And I think that's, that wasn't very long ago, and this is why that's kind of the history of why rodeos came about was, that it was working, that's
right. It was your best. Each ranch had their hands, and who had the best hand, on each ranch, and that was how the rodeos started, like the old PK rodeos and stuff like that. They'd have those rodeos out there in the field and just circle up all the cars and all that crap out there. And it was bragging rights at the end of the day of who was the top dude,
right?
And so and your steer trip and your calf roping, that's stuff you got to do out on the ranch anyways. So, there's still going to be people doing that if they're raising cattle to this day. You're gonna have to doctor a cow out in the field. So how do you do that single-handedly? Well, you rope them and cut to the left and trip them and tie them down and work on your steer or whatever. But
do you guys see it? This is kind of an odd question, but do you guys see kind of King's, helping in that regards of like education for people like that don't understand? Yeah. This is a living. I understand that rodeo, it's a sport, but
I think you have these shows on TV and stuff, and we've got a lot of people moving into this state from certain places that they see the thing, they see the, like, let's say Yellowstone. It's I can take it or leave it, but there's so many.
It's an interesting concept of a show.
Yeah.
Do most dude ranches work like the Yellowstone show? No. You don't have the characters. You got characters working for you usually, but they're a little punchier than I think the guys that are on the TV show. But I don't know. But as far as like educating people, we have so many people rolling through there that ask questions and stuff like that. We'll tell them why we do this and do that and stuff like that. It's definitely I can see us not being a source of education, but definitely answering questions along the way.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And saying, if people have a question, why do you do this? And that's why. So
yeah. No, that was great. That's
yeah.
Just kind of popped in my head there.
Yeah.
Zach, you have anything?
Well, I wanted to see if you guys just tell us what it was like growing up in Sheridan back in the 70s and 80s. And
any stories of Matt Gale, too. I think
or just the whole Gale family. I mean, I know there's
Zach, as you know, Matt and I were born 2 months apart, and then Brett Carroll was born in July, and between Elva, Pete, Liz, John, Mom, and Dad, they were all buddies, and I still remember when Mom went into labor with Ryan, Barry and I got taken to Liz and John's, dropped off at 2 a.m, and then got our little brother the next day. So a lot has changed, of course, since I got out of here, and as soon as I graduated high school, that's when I went up to Bozeman, and I didn't come back till last May. So definitely a lot has changed. It's grown.
Oh yeah. But what a great place to grow up. I mean, Jesus, we got the mountains right here. I mean, growing up here was awesome.
Yeah.
We have these cell phones now. I'm glad we didn't have them back then because, the shit that would have been recorded, for one, would not fly today. But, just having the opportunity to have John and stuff take us up to camping trips with father and son.
Oh, the father and son trip. Yeah. That's something we did every August. And
drink our little hamster beers.
Yeah, we got the little 6 or 8 ounce beers. Yeah, that we got to have on Saturday night.
Yeah. But yeah, sitting up around with Pete Carroll and John and God, who else was that? I mean, there was
Junior
30 or 40 people camping.
Yeah.
Dads
Just
with
up
their kids
at
and
Adelaide,
stuff like
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And God, what's that one year where Dad just bought that truck?
Oh,
and it was muddier than hell, and just hit every tree on the way up the trail. I think sliding around with that thing. But that's sitting in the back of the truck while it's happening.
Yeah, no seat belts.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Growing up around here is just, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah, it sure has changed around here though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, and I don't know, not all of it's for the better, but I think some of it's pretty darn good. I think this town has not grown too fast to where it looks like Cheyenne or anything like
Right.
that. So I think we've kept it fairly classy around here for the most part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and it definitely making it a place to come and move and retire or whatever you want to call this place.
Right.
So
Yeah.
live active or retire here. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
you got it all. So
Well, and that's kind of why we started Go BYO is to keep this kind of way of life, but still get people coming here, moving here. I don't think that's a bad thing,
No.
But trying to get them to buy into what Wyoming is and what Sheridan is.
Right. And I just hope that we get the right people here with the right mindsets because
Yep.
that don't want to change it too drastically because there's nothing really that I really want to change, right now except for all the new bullshit that's coming in. Some of this, you get the Colorado or California influence of whatever their states are doing to them right now. But
Yeah.
There's a reason why you moved out of there.
right.
Yeah.
But now you're going to try to bring your ways into here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those are the people I don't want here. The ones that are trying to change it to what those states are.
Yeah.
You gotta, I don't know, you gotta realize where you're at,
Right.
I guess, or get punched in the face. Well, god dang.
Well, it's a mix, right? Because you guys were, Donnie, you were gone for 20 years, but it's not like you came here and we're like, we're gonna do this,
Right.
you got to have that mix.
You're not
And
going to reinvent the wheel.
yeah,
It's, it's
This town's growing the way it is anyways, so it just doesn't have South Florida nightclubs and stuff like that, which is just
probably a
fine.
good thing.
yeah, yep.
So
Well, and it's you're not going to try and reinvent the wheel, but then at the same time, we talked about there's writing on the wall of what's going to happen with rodeo with the rope business, and it's like, well, we got to change. It's you can't be stuck in it's always been this way, and then you can't always be stuck in
Right.
we're gonna change it up.
and it's not like we're going to change so drastically that
Right.
you won't recognize us. It's just got to be little touches here and there of we used to do it like this, but maybe we need to do it like that now, or
Yeah.
things like that. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Donnie and I are both kind of trying to take over things a little bit, and it's the way Mom and Dad have been doing business is maybe not the way we're going to do it all the way. I mean, certainly my dad's kept this place running for a good port. He started running it in the early 80s. That's when he actually officially took over for my grandfather. And, he's done a pretty damn good job keeping the doors open.
Yeah.
So all we can do is keep that up and hopefully build on that. But, I don't want to try and grow so much that we're unrecognizable anymore either.
Right.
Right.
So we'll never branch out and have another store anywhere or anything
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
we've been approached by that to start doing like chain type stuff, but that's not what we're about at all.
Right.
I mean, would I like to have a little satellite shop in Wickenburg, Arizona during the winter that's open? Hell yeah, because that's a team roping mecca right now is, down in Wickenburg in that area. So,
Yeah.
sure, I'd love to have a little satellite shop or have a trailer set up permanently down there, but, I don't want to have to deal with the business side of that. I mean, as far as, do we ship them, what do you guys need, or having an employee down there that, whatever, or it's going to be one of us, that goes down there. So
Right.
I'm not really the Arizona. I like Arizona, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to live down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the museum? Has that ever been you guys, what'd you say, a couple hundred in storage that aren't out?
We've tried to expand. It's It's when Grandma and Grandpa were still alive, and there was just a situation with city government that it was. Grandmother didn't like the ramifications that the city was saying she had to do, monetarily wise. So then I think it's fine the way it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know where you could go with it right now, to be honest with you. All you can do is go up pretty much. Otherwise, if you go out, you take away a bunch of parking in the back there that is kind of needed for the coffee shops and the brewery and all that there. And so you don't really want to take away from that either.
Yeah. Well, and it's a cool.
I think it's so cool the way it is right now. I mean, my Aunt Jean was the curator of that museum since the inception of it. And it was her style is the reason it's the way it is. And her style was funky. And to be, to kind of put it out there, but that's just the way she was. And she was a character, and I wouldn't want that museum any other way. You know, you can go to that Buffalo Bill Museum over in Cody, and it's gorgeous, but it's sterile. It's very, everything's lined up, perfect, whatever. I just love all the.
Yeah.
You see something new every time you're in that museum, because there's always stuff hidden in a corner somewhere or something like that. Where as the other ones, I've seen that gun. Whatever.
Yep. Well, and you guys mentioned too, you have so many in storage that it's kind of fun to maybe switch them out.
Yeah,
so it's,
might go dig through there and find one you might have forgotten about.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so, it's.
Yeah, it's got the family touch. Yeah. No, that's good. No, I was just curious because it's, we didn't know you guys had that many that weren't out on display. So that's kind of
right
for anybody that comes through, this might be a new one that you haven't seen before. Or,
exactly.
So that's awesome. Yeah.
So, and then, I don't know so much anymore. It's kind of out of our hands with the museum, what goes on there now. But, I don't know if they're going to keep rotating stuff in and out. But I think they still move stuff around a little bit here and there. So
sure. Cool.
But we're still always adding little things here and there.
Sure.
So just depends on what it is.
Nice.
Zach, do you have?
I don't have any more questions.
I was going to say I'll let them have, because our last one we did kind of like tell us a funny story or something that's interesting to the King brand or something like that. Or I can't remember how I phrased it the last time. It was like for Ryan, I think it was like first saddle like you maybe made, or first kind of leather project that you kind of remember that's funny. Or
I still haven't made a saddle yet. But
okay.
I've got a tree. I'm going to start probably working on it here pretty quick. So the first project I ever worked on, let's go back to when I was about 14. And the funny thing about family business is that when you screw up, nobody holds back.
Right.
I think I said on another deal where, you might screw up at work and you get yelled at for something you did 3 weeks ago at home that gets added into what you just screwed up at the shop. So I had just put a bunch of headstalls together backwards. And goddamn, my dad was pissed. He grabbed them all, threw them down on the bench. God damn it, you clock out and do it over again. So I don't think anybody's since has had to clock out and redo something since. But that's been thrown out there, and stuff like that's kind of funny. But
when I was working for Dad on the leather side, I was told we made horn wraps at the time for the steers, and I had to get 3 dozen out by a certain time on UPS. And, of course, that's one of the days that grandfather came down in the afternoon. And I was back on the sewing machine just going gangbusters because I had to get them put together into the shipping department. And he came back there and lit into me that I was running the sewing machine too quickly. And back in his day, they stitched them all by hand. And I just looked at him and said, I've got 3 to 4 dozen I got to get out. And I said, you're talking like maybe 2 or 3 that you hand stitched, back in your day, and he just grumbled and walked off. So that's basically how Grandpa was.
Yeah, he put in his piece, but I think if you pointed out to him that you got a deadline, he probably understood that a little bit, because he was always under the deadline. So there was when he was doing those champion saddles, he was still dyeing them in the hotel room, doing the two-toning on the floral work before during the finals. Yeah. So it's not like he came out with a finished product or anything. He was still assembling stuff in his hotel room at night. So and my grandmother, I think, did a lot of the two-toning on that stuff too. So it's kind of funny. But yeah.
What about yachting? Any funny stories or something you guys want to share there? That's appropriate, I guess.
Well, yeah, I was going to say appropriate. I don't know. It's still about the chef that used to
corn speckled lumpfish.
Yeah, used to know the chef that used to night before a charter would come on board, he would eat a bunch of corn, and he'd go up on the bow of the boat while dinner service was going on, and he'd take a dump off of the bow of the boat, and the current pushes it down, and he'd go back, talk to the guests, and he'd look overboard and say, "Oh my God, look at that corn speckled lumpfish," and get guests to take a look overboard, and
some of them would take pictures.
Yeah. But stuff like that, you got to keep it interesting in that industry. So you got to meet characters like that from all over the world. It just blows your mind on some of the stuff people do.
Yeah.
So,
oh man,
got to give them an experience.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty good, Zach. I don't have anything else since we have him in here.
Yeah. Yeah, we appreciate you guys coming back.
You bet.
Yeah, hey, anytime.
And you guys are more than welcome to come back again. Maybe later in the day when we've got some other
beverages.
Let's get some beer in here next time.
Yeah.
Get some burps in the microphone.
There you go.
Oh, good.
But yeah, thanks Donnie and Ryan King for coming on, and I think Zach, you guys take a little tour with them maybe too, so that'll be a little fun. But yeah, thank you guys for coming back on again, and everyone listening, remember, go BYO, go Be Wyoming, and we'll have you guys back on again. So thanks.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you guys.